So good evening, welcome to stages 12 and 12A. Today we're going to be doing the components for the right bumper and front right stabiliser, as well as the main chassis, door steps and wheel arches. So hello, welcome to stage 12. In this episode this part of the video we're going to be doing the components for the right bumper and front right stabiliser. And let's begin with the parts list then. So we begin with, if I can get the bags open, you know what they're like. Right, so we have got, oh wow, okay, that's nice. We've got the front right stabiliser, and this is all plastic construction, but as you see it's a moving part. I have said before, I'm slightly disappointed that they don't give this to us to build. Why can't they give us the separate components and give us more to do? However, you also have to maintain the balance between complete newbies and really experienced modelers. You know, if you make it too simple, the experienced modelers complain. If you make it too difficult, the beginners just won't take it on because they think they won't be able to. But you know, I suppose at the end of the day I'd rather have these partly assembled pieces than have it too difficult. So the next we've got the front bumper plating. One other thing I haven't really noted it, they don't number these parts, they just call them by a name. Now I'd actually rather they gave us a name, because then they actually have to name things. So this is called the front bumper plating, as opposed to number 2 component, or number 2 piece detail, or whatever. So this is a front bumper mirror. So this is a mirror for someone, and there we go, we are mirroring the webcam there. Then we've got 2 tow hooks. We've seen these before, something very similar. Excuse me. So I did not mean to sneeze into the camera, I should have hit the mute first. So these are literally just 2 tabs of plastic, which I assume are going to be glued on in place somewhere. Then we have got the bell support, which is this piece here. This is plastic, although it is actually chromed up as though it was metal. And surprise surprise, we have got a bell. Again, this is plastic. And then we will finish up with 2 J-type screws, but it does say keep the front bumper mirror and 1 type J screw for use in a later stage, so it's very important that we keep those pieces. So we need to find our front bumper plating, our front bumper that was assembled in stage 4. And just to refresh your memory, we popped the air horn in there and we popped the little plating on the front. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking this plating, and you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3 holes there. There's 3 holes there. There's also a couple of holes there, and they're going to line up with those holes there, and that's just going to go over the top there like that. And the 3 pins, push the 3 pins firmly into the corresponding holes to fit, and there we go, just like that. We have a little bit of plating now. So the next step that we want to do is we want to assemble our bell, and the bell consists of a bell and a bell support. And all we're going to do, see inside the bell there's a hole, we're just going to push this pin into there, and that does not want to go. So, oh, there we go. Maybe I didn't get it in firmly enough. It is quite a harsh, a forced, sorry, a very tight fit. So maybe that's because there was a bit of chrome work. And all of a sudden it feels quite heavy, as though it was made of metal, but I can assure you it's not. Right, so now this is going to go on to these two holes there, and that's just going to be a push fit connection, and try to support it near the base because you don't want to damage that bell. I don't know if this is going to be strong enough to be pushed by the bell, but I can't seem to. I see. There is actually two different size holes. You see it, that one's larger. So it's a case of, there we go. So if we find we find the smaller hole first. I can't really see which one is the smaller hole. It's very, very hard to tell the difference. So if you find the smaller hole, push that in, and the next one must be the larger one then. So that is extremely difficult to get in. There we go, that's popped in. So I'm finding easier to just get a couple of fingernails and just push it. You can see how the bell support flares out at the bottom. Just where that flare is, just push that in. Now that is going to be very, very easy to knock off, so be very careful, guys. And then once we've done that, we want to glue on these two tabs. Now just like before, there is a slight bit of ejector pin mark, but just on the one side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these in. In fact, this has actually lost a bit of paint. I seem to be having a lot of issues with this part work. I must confess I'm not the happiest part worker around at the moment with the issues, but you know, it's all good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of glue on my waste bit of plastic, and I'm just going to try and get the tiniest amount of glue, and I'm going to work out where that ejector pin mark is, and I'm going to place it so that the ejector pin marks are visible from the inside. And then that's just going to go into there. I should have done a test fit first, which is my bad, and I really should have done a test fit because that's not going in. In fact, do you know what? I don't know why I'm gluing this in. No, I don't need to glue this in. It's not giving me instructions to glue it in, and it doesn't really need gluing in because it's going to be going in quite deep. So yeah, that's barely fitting. That really is a tight fit. So whether that's, and I'm feeling that's really difficult with these fragile bits on the edges and this bell in the middle. Why could we not put these tow hooks on first? Because I still haven't got this in. There we go, that's gone in. No, that's not even still in. There we go. You just got to keep wiggling it, and that will eventually go in. But I'm just really worried because there's so many fragile areas around it that I'm just worried. To be honest with you, that paintwork doesn't really matter. Most of it actually gets hidden up underneath. There you go, that's all gets hidden up there. But it is the principle that it's, well, actually there's a little bit there, look. So I might just touch that up with a bit of paint. Right, there you go, guys. That is stage 12A complete. No, it's not stage 12 complete. We do have one more bit to do, and that's the stabilizer. So this stabilizer, it says with the reverse side of the bumper facing you, which is going to be like this, align the bracket on the stabilizer with the hole of the peg inside the bumper. So what we're going to be doing is popping, and you see how there's two holes there, and there we have a peg and a hole, and this is going to go in. This is standard supporting, so that's going to go in like so, and then we are assumably, yeah, we're going to secure that with a single J screw. So where's my screwdriver gone? There we go. So there you go. Look, that bell has worked its way loose. That's probably because I've knocked it while I was putting the toe bits in. There we go. Right, so that J screw is in, and that's in nice and firm. That's not moving, so that part is in. So we have a moving part. There's obviously a spring in there. There we go. This part is, yeah, it's really loose. So I may be replacing that with a, I might glue it into place. Because you've only got to slightly knock it and that bell will come out of place. It's very fragile. I think that has stiffened it up by pushing in, but yeah, that's okay. Right, so guys, that is stage 12 complete. So we have got a single J screw left over. So if you're anything like me, you are collecting the parts anyway. We also have a bumper, I think they called it a bumper mirror. And then obviously we have the component that we have made. So guys, get ready for, in terms of parts, quite possibly one of the best issues that we're going to get. So this stage actually came in its own box. It's that big. When I ordered it, I'm like, wow, I've got 2 stages. They've accidentally sent me too much. But they didn't. Because this stage was sent on its own. Sorry, was sent separately. Right, so there we go. Just going to pop the box over there. So let's have a bit of an unveiling. I do like the way the parts are packaged. I feel that they have given them absolutely every chance to arrive in perfect order, and they often do. And there is confirmation. All the parts are made in China, People's Republic of China, made in PRC. So there we go, guys. So 12B main chassis, door steps and wheel arches. So this is the main chassis, and I'm going to pop that there. And then we have got 2 rear wheel arches. And these are plastic, and these are absolutely identical by looks of it, so I assume they're going to go on like that. So that's fine. Let's put the chassis down lower and all the parts up higher, because the chassis is easier to move out and it'll create more space for us. So we have got front wheel arch surrounds ×2. And they look quite spectacular, actually. There you go. So now we have a collection of various bits. I'm trying to find, here we go. So outrigger pads left and right. So that's these parts. So we've got a couple of little pins on them, and we've got some detail on one side. There we go. And we've got front cab door steps left and right. When I first looked at these, I thought it was one piece, you know, one shaped piece like that, but I can see that it's actually 2 pieces. And then we've got front rear cab. So yeah, the rear cab looks like they're bigger than the front, and these will obviously, I'm guessing, will be oversized steps, because remember, these firefighters are getting on with their fire equipment, so they're going to have their big lumber and boots on, so these steps need to be a little bit larger. There we go. And Wow, we've got lots of screws now. So we've got screws type C, we've got screws type J, screws type H, and we've got screws type L, and it's going to be really interesting to see what screws we have left over at the end of the build and see what screws we're collecting for future issues. So guys, sorry, bear with me 1 second. I just need to quickly blow my nose. Bear with me. So my apologies for that. I'm just getting on the tail end of a cold, and I'm at that stage where I need to blow my nose fairly regular. It just kind of builds up. Right, so we need to rest the main chassis upside down, which is this way, and working on this end, and I know it's the end because we have a square piece there. Let me just move my light. My light seems to have all of a sudden not be lighting as lightly. Right, so rest the chassis upside down on your work surface and take the chassis front part B from stage 11. So that's either this piece or it's this piece, and I think it's this piece. I cannot tell. Right, align the peg on the chassis part with the hole at the front end of the main chassis, and push into place. Gently file any excess paint off the peg if the peg is a tight fit. So that's definitely going to be this part here, and yeah, I can confirm that I think that is too small. So we have two options. We can either make that hole larger or we can make this one smaller, and then I can see we will be fixing that with a screw. So let me just check. Yeah, so I'll just scrape any roughness off the hole there. It could just be that. If that doesn't do the job, then I will have to resort to filing the part. So yeah, this is a bit of a problem I'm having with. Oh, there we go. It's gone in fine. It's gone in fine. So it may not actually need any rubbing with the knife. It might actually just been the angle that I put it in. So what I was about to say about there being fit issues, please ignore that. So next we want a type H screw, just a single one, and that's this silver one here. And what we're going to be doing is flipping the chassis upside down, which is something that I really hate doing. It's not so bad now because there's nothing on the chassis. Right, that's going to go in like that. And remember, we are attaching a plastic piece. Although we're screwing into metal, we are ultimately screwing in a piece of plastic. So don't over tighten. There we go, that's in perfect. And then working from the underside again, take the chassis front part A and align the peg and raise screw hole with a corresponding hole in the main chassis. So I think that's this piece here in the middle. So again, looking for any roughness. So this peg there is meant to go over there, and then there's a screw hole there. So once we get that in place, there we go, that's gone in like a dream. And then what screw are we using from underneath? We're going to be using an H screw again. So that's good. So yeah, I am really curious to know how many spare screws we get and whether we're going to need them. So there we go, and there's the screw hole there. And again, we're working a lot of black on black, which does have a tendency to hide the details. I'm just experimenting with the idea of getting a little bit of grey paint and just dry brushing over everything, just a very, very light sprinkling, and just go over, and that's going to pick out all of the detail. So that might be a good idea, but that's something to consider. Right, so next we want the Outrigger Pads, which is this piece here, and we're going to be putting some glue on them. And then what we need to do is push the 2 pegs on the right outrigger pad into the corresponding holes on the right hand side of the rear chassis. So let's have a look. So these are going to go into here. So we've got a couple of holes there, and that's going to be glued into place like so, and that doesn't even want to go. So the question is it meant to go? I don't think that's the correct side. I think these pegs are possibly different sizes. No, I think they are the same size. Let's see if we can get one in first. These really are a tight fit, and these holes feel very, very rough. Sorry guys, I feel like I'm doing an unboxing review now rather than a build diary. I don't think these pegs are lining up. So, well, these Outrigger pads are the same, but they just don't fit. They really do not want to fit. Right, that one's fine. That's perfect. That was perfect. So, no, it's now not perfect. No, it never was perfect. It felt like it was in, but it never was. So, I'm really not liking this. Right, so they do fit. I think what I might end up doing is removing one of these pegs. But first I'm gonna... No, it's this peg here. This peg is not fitting. And it does say bigger hole, smaller hole on it as well. So let's go back. So the smaller hole goes at the front. So that means that this piece needs to go on this side. Yeah, this peg doesn't even line up. Yeah, it's not, look, if you see I've lined up the rear peg, but the front peg doesn't even line up. That's why we're struggling to get them in. And this one, if anything, they're too small. So if that's the case, yeah, now this one's too small. The pegs are too inward. But if I rotate it around, then we've got the round and the large and the small pegs round the wrong way. But are they fitting? No, see, they're still too large. I think I'm just going to have to cut one of the pegs off and glue them in that way. It's a terrible fit. Really is dreadful. Well, look guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these off, and I'm just going to call it that. If this continues to be a terrible build, as it's becoming, I am going to stop the build. I really want this model. I was really excited for it. But if it's like this, you know, I just really can't continue. I don't mind doing mods to improve things, but when you're doing mods just to be able to build it to the standard in the magazine, I don't think that's right, guys. So right, so let's pop a little bit of glue, and because I'm going to be gluing this with only one peg for support, it's going to be a one shot hit, which is going to be a bit of an issue, and that is how that goes on. So we've got the rear peg for support and the front peg is now gone. It's the only way I can get it to fit. So double check that. Yeah, that it's one peg, one is too small, one is too big, and I know that makes it sound like I've got them the wrong way round, but if you put them the opposite way round, then the peg, you're trying to put the big peg into the small hole, and it's just that's about half a peg too small. And I just think I really don't like, guys, you know me, I'm optimistic. I always try to look at the good things about the build, and while this is extremely attractive, I don't think improperly fitting parts is defendable. So you know, what's the other build's going to be like? Right, I've put a little bit too much glue on there. Excuse me, I put a little bit too much glue on there by accident, so I'm just going to leave it. Now I've preached to you guys before about glue. These guys who put extra glue on thinking it's going to be extra strong, that is not the case. With extra glue, all that happens is it just takes extra long to dry, and also because it's thicker, it's going to be movable, and it's going to take longer to dry. That's how it's going to take longer to dry. So it's not going to be any stronger, but it just means I can't go anywhere near that for as long as I possibly can. So let's have a look at the next step. So we're going to be doing more building of steps, and this time we want the rear cab door. Now double check and triple check your instructions, which I'm about to do now. We have two sets of steps, and I would actually get, although we're only dealing with two steps, I would get both of them, because it's asking us for the rear cab, and then the front ones are the smaller ones. So we've got both as a comparison, then we can put our front ones over there, and then we can, so we know we're only dealing with the right ones. And again, just like before, these have allegedly got a larger and a smaller peg. So these are going, I think it's going, no, it's going, I think I owe someone an apology. Yeah, I owe somebody an apology, and it's Agora Models. Right, guys, I'm sorry, totally my fault. I've stuck these on the wrong way round, which explains why they don't fit. So thankfully that's been put on with too much glue. So this actually goes on to here. So hopefully I haven't caused too much damage with the glue marks. Right, okay, so Agora, I am so sorry, or whoever made this. So I have now got two pegs that do fit perfectly, and they do fit perfectly, and they now only have one peg each. So let's have a look at this. So get this lined up. Right, so I've got some glue marks there, so if that causes a problem, I'll just spray that over with some black paint. So that is my fault. So if I have an ugly model, it is my fault. So yeah, when I make a mistake and I call somebody out, I will admit my mistake, as you can tell. So yeah, I feel absolutely dreadful, and I won't edit that out, because I have called someone out on it, and B, if you see these parts that are I've just taken the paint off there. And some of the great part workers in the whole world make big mistakes, don't they? So I won't be the first one. Right, so we are looking for right, so just before a wheel arch. Right, there we go. So here I can tell this is where it is. The picture clearly shows the wheel arch there, and then we have this kind of triangle there, and then the pegs are going to go, I think this is the larger, and there we go. Look at that for perfect fit. Amazing that, isn't it? So let's turn this upside down. I'll keep that in there just to remind us of where it goes, and then get our glue, and we're going to glue both of these in. So I'm going to put a little bit on the pegs and a little bit on the pegs and a little bit in between the pegs, and there we go. Now all of a sudden, as soon as it's got glue on, it doesn't want to glue in properly. There we go, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Got to be careful where you lean the chassis, because we've got these glued on parts that could easily snap. So, and we take this second rear step, and we want to push that onto there. Into, and that one's gone in perfect. I did test fit that didn't I? Right, so that then just leaves the smaller step, I assume. There we go, and that's going right on the end. So we've got two holes there. So that will be for the captain, won't it? Because the driver, no, the driver sits there, the captain sits there, because remember the driver is on the, no, the driver's on the left hand side, because my dad, who lives in New York, he always says to me, we drive on the right side of the road, you drive on the wrong side of the road. Right, so there we go, test fitting of the steps. That one doesn't feel like it's gone in properly, whereas this one does. Right, okay, it doesn't like that. Let's test fit it in the other side. Yeah, that's gone in. So if this is a bit of a stiff connection, then we know it's the chassis. Yeah, so the chassis is having a bit of an issue today. So we'll just try, first of all, we'll just run our knife in there, just to remove any paint from the inside of the hole. And if that's not enough, which it is, but if that wasn't enough, then what we would do is get a file in there, but just removing the paint is enough. In fact, it's now such a tight fit, I can't get the part out to apply glue. So let's get a small screwdriver and we'll push that from this side. That should be enough to persuade it to come out. Oh, even that doesn't want to play. Right, well in that case you can stay in then, matey. If that doesn't want to come out, then I can't see the point in removing it just to glue it back in again. So I'm going to leave that. But this one I certainly will glue in. And all I'm going to do is just apply a small dab of glue to the two pegs, top of the two pegs, and then that way any squeeze out that we get goes all the way down the peg. There we go. Oops, a little bit too free and easy with the glue there. Right, so we have got front steps, rear steps, front steps, rear steps, and then whatever that was called again, which I feel absolutely terrible for, and I don't think that's going to show. I think that's actually a pretty silly mistake that I made there. That's pretty obvious it wasn't going up, but you know, there you go. Sometimes you make these silly mistakes just by not looking. So repeat defeat the outrigger. Okay, so I've read the instructions right, but I've not read the instructions right. They actually asked us to do the outrigger pad. Sorry guys, I've got a splodge of something and I hope it's not glue. I think it is glue. Right, so they've asked us to do an outrigger pad rear step, front step. Then they've asked us to do it again, but I've actually done the two and then the other two, so that's my bad. Right, so next up, just going to move the chassis to here. We need to, now that the steps are in place, the wheel arches can be assembled. Start by test fitting the wheel arches on the left hand side of the main chassis. So that is going to go, so we see we've got what is for all intents and purposes 4 posts. They're actually screw holes, but this wheel arch is just going to go over like that, and then they're going to ask us to glue them in. So press the wheel arches firmly in place. Repeat to fit the second wheel arch to the right hand side. Test fit the parts before applying super glue. Why do they need to be super glued? Is there not some screws coming in place there? There's an awful lot of super glue. This is in effect becoming a scale model kit. I know some scale modelers will turn their nose up at this because it's a construction kit, and that's how they see it. And you know, I scale model and I do part works, so I don't totally agree with that. There is skill involved in doing this, but if they're going to turn a construction kit, inverted commas, into a scale model kit, you're not doing a scale model, you're not doing a construction kit, are you? Because if they want this to be a scale model kit, then they might as well give us unpainted parts. Right, that glue is not engaging, so I may have just left this too long. I seem to have an issue with these glues, these super glue gels. If I don't shake the bottle regularly and I leave the lid off a little bit too long, it just doesn't stick, which this isn't doing. So I'm going to leave it. I think that's all going to get screwed down anyway. Ah, there you go, that's stuck. No, it's not stuck on that rear wheel arch. Right, so let me get a bit of little bit of kitchen roll, and we'll just wipe any excess off, wiping outwards. You can tell it was definitely making contact because the glue that I applied to this wheel arch has left a residue on the metal. So we'll go back to the bottle of glue, give it a good shake, and then we just squeeze out just a tiny amount on the top, and then we'll try again. There we go. It looks like I was applying a lot of glue there, but what I was actually doing was applying a little bit of glue, squeezing, and then I was spreading it with a nozzle. That's still not sticking. That is not sticking. Ah, now it's sticking. Now it's sticking. So I think it just maybe needed a little bit longer and a really good firm push. So you could apply a clamp on there and maybe left it for a couple of hours. It's not stuck down there on this side, as you can see, but it is stuck down on this side. So how I fix that, I'm not quite sure. I'll tell you what I'll do. Put a little bit of squeeze in there. We'll get a cocktail stick, and then we'll just run a little bit along the edge of the wheel arch on the chassis, and we'll just see if we can get that down there. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Right. So next step is the silver parts of the wheel arches. So this is going somewhere. This is going on the front, I can see now. So this is, you see how, right, so we've got 4 screw holes there, what looks like screw holes. There we go. And then we've got a little peg there. Now we've got 4 holes on the wheel arches and a small hole there, and all that's going to do is a bit of a tight fit, but that's going to go in like that, and that seems to be, yeah, that's not going all the way in. Right, so we have a problem there. So it's too much of a tight fit, or it hasn't gone, I put it the wrong way round. Could well be that I put it the wrong way round. Yes, I think I put it the wrong way round. This has got a rounded front, but not so rounded at the back, and I can see that it's more rounded at the front. So I'm really cocking up today, aren't I, guys? But now it's not fitting so well at the back. Right, so it is asking us to apply super glue, and I really don't think it needs it much. I think that once the chassis is applied, that's going to push all of this down. I think this super glue stages are just holding it in place until something else happens. So I'm not going to even super glue it. And if it does turn out to be loose, well, I'll know why it's loose. So I'll be able to go back and apply super glue. So there's our our plates. We've got this lovely grippy aluminium. You'll see it in industrial factories and things all over the place. Right, so there we go. So we've got our front wheel arches with our plates there. That's looking quite nice. The silver parts does tend to bring it to life. Right, so got those glued in. Right, so next we need our wheels. We need some wheels. So we need our drive shaft from a previous issue, and we're going to be flipping this over. I can see that we are going to see they're working in opposite side to me, so we can now see why they wanted this bit facing upwards, because that's going to be going right. So this part that we've pushed in there's a hole, and then we're going to push this into the hole until this peg there lines up with that hole there. So it's, there we go, and then that will naturally fall into position, and then you've got these semicircles there, they will fall into holes in place there, and they have gone in. It's a little bit lopsided because of this wheel, but yeah, it's gone in fine. Right, so now what we want to do is turn it over. Yeah, I think maybe we shouldn't have put that wheel on. So now we want our L screws, and what we're going to be doing is putting these, and these are top hat screws. Now they worked really well last time we used them, so we've got to apply a total of 10 screws, 2 in the middle and then 4 around the edges. So let's look at the parts that don't want to go in first. So I'm going to apply one there, then I'm going to there, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to work my round sort of 2 screws at a time, then the opposite, then move forward 2, and so on and so forth. So we're gonna, because we're screwing this into plastic, we're just going to screw until the screw tells us to stop, and it is a top hat screw, so screwing harder will not do any good whatsoever, because it's pretty much got a washer built into it. Right, so the opposite end now. There we go, and I'm going to do a quick check because I have had a look at the magazine and it says that this suspension is supposed to move, so I am making sure. Yeah, we've got good suspension there. Right, so I've put that screw in, then this one, so I'm now going to go on to this one here. I'm actually going to go on to this one, and then I'm going to go this one, then this one, this one, this one, and then the 2 middle ones. That makes sense. But first, just bear with me for a sec, guys. I'm just going to hit mute while I blow my nose. Oh, sorry about that. So this is a very strange cold that I have, in that I blow my nose, say in the morning, and I feel fine. And then all of a sudden, a few hours later, without any warning, my nose needs a blow, and then 5 minutes later it needs another blow, and then 5 minutes later, and so on and so forth, and then all of a sudden it stops and you think, oh lovely, I'm over it now. So that's the 3rd screw in. Then here comes the 4th one. Don't know why I don't use the ratchety bit on my screwdriver more. It will make so much lighter work. Right, so that's 4 of the 8 outer screws in place. And I really wish they hadn't given us just 2 wheels. If they'd have given us all the wheels or none of the wheels, I fear this would have been a little bit easier to do. You guys know I don't like doing wheels lopsided. You know, on some of my bigger builds, when I've got a wheel, it says to assemble 1 wheel. I've just gone, right, I'm skipping past that stage and I'm going to come back to it when we do the corresponding wheel, and then I'll do 2 wheels together. And I wonder if maybe I should have done that in this stage. So right, there we go. So that's going in place. So this has got a little bit more rigidity to it. We haven't got all of the screws in place yet, so it's not going to be perfect, and we don't have full contact to the ground with the wheels, so it's not going to be perfect for a while. And I am concerned that we have parts on the edge which has got fresh glue on them, so I am concerned about knocking those off. But so far so good. So this is looking a little bit small when compared to things like my bus, but that's because it's 1:24 scale. So although this is pushing the length of my bus, it's not quite the length of my bus. I mean, I think this is going to get a little bit longer, but not much longer. But it is almost the length of my bus, but it's half the scale of my bus, So if it was 1 to 12 scale, it would be much bigger. So do you think, guys, that this should have come out in 1 to 12 scale? Do you think that would have been awesome? Do you think if it had come out in 1 to 12 scale, it would be far too big, and it may actually put people off purely because of the size? I mean, I would have jumped at it. I would have gone hungry for a month to get hold of the pieces if it was 1 to 12 scale, but that's me. I don't represent everybody. Right, so that isn't as firm as it could be. It's got a bit of movement, but I can see that they act, because they're free moving. I tell you what I haven't done. I know what I haven't done. I haven't put the springs in place, have I? So I'm going to do that off camera, guys, because the springs should have been in. I just remembered we've got a bag somewhere with 8 springs. There we go. No, we've got a bag with 4 springs. Right. So let me double check the magazine. Yes, so there should be 4 springs in there, and the 4 springs will be 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 that we haven't. So I'm going to have to take that off. This build is going on for a bit, so I'm not going to take them off yet, but I might just do an edit at the end. Right, so the next step then is we want the we have a piece that we need, and I've been working on the desk and I've either knocked pieces everywhere or something. Right, guys, I'm going to have to do a cut. Okay, sorry guys, I was looking for a part that I didn't need to look for. We're actually looking for the cross member from from stage 11, and that's going to go on there. And again, we've got the big hole, small hole thing going on. It's not a lot of difference to see on camera, but that's going on. Oh, that's not going in. There we go. See, this is the thing, these need to be a tight fit so that they don't fall off, but if they're too tight you can't get them on. Right, there we go. So that's that drive shaft in place, and then we need our exhaust pipe again from the previous issue. So I'm just having a look through my collection of bits, and this is metal. I said before I was surprised at this being metal, because it probably doesn't need to be metal. Right, so that's going to come from there we go. One. Trying to find the bits. Where is... Right, okay, got it upside down then. It's working the orientation, so I can see a step there. This side is longer, so this needs to go... There we go. So we've got a hole there, a hole there, and a hole there. 1, 2, 3. These 2 of these are pegs, and 1 is a screw. This middle one is a screw, and that needs to be fixed with a H type screw. So where are the H screws then? Guys, did we get an H screw? Yes, because they're here. Oh, that worried me for a bit there. Right, so I'm going to hold the exhaust pipe, turn it upside down, and then we will just fix that in place. Right, there we go. That exhaust is in. Because there's 2 pegs, you only need 1 screw hole. Right, and then we have got more little pieces. So take the cylinder from stage 11 and working on the underside. Align the 2 pegs with 2 holes on the main chassis. So there's the 2 holes, and I can see that one is a peg, one is a screw hole. So that's peg is going to go there and the screw hole will go there, and that is obviously going to ask us to screw it in with a C-type screw. So here's our C-type screw. So it looks like this is going to be a build where you might get the screws for that one issue. So if you do lose any spares, you may get away with it, but that isn't an excuse to throw any spare screws away. So there we go, that cylinder's in place there. And next we have this small fiddly piece, and what is that? Some kind of breather piece. So continuing on the underside, fit the connector from stage 11 onto the cylinder already in the central section. Push the connector firmly in place. So I can see that, right, it needs to go this way round because the exhaust pipe is coming out this way, and then you see there's a connector there. This piece that I'm holding needs to be facing the opposite direction to the exhaust pipe. So that's going to push into there, like so. I think that's some kind of breather pipe, overflow pipe or something, I don't know. Right, so the next step is the front wheels, front axle. So let's learn our lesson. So we've got the screws that we should have fitted before. So screw 1, screw 2. Right, so front axle. There we go. Right, so springs can go on there like so. I don't regret not putting these springs on because I would have lost them by now, wouldn't I? Right, so let's have a look at how this is fitting. So it needs to go this way around. Oh, that is exactly why. That's exactly why I didn't put the springs on. Sorry guys, I need to make a cut. What's happened is as I've turned this, the springs come off. As I've tried to catch that spring, I've then lost the second spring. So I need to just do some looking for it. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, so it turns out I got a bit lucky. One spring had fallen on the floor, but while I was looking for the second one, I couldn't find it anywhere. It turns out it had fallen on the table. Right, so I've done a little test fit. I can see how it's going to go in, and I really don't know the best way to assemble. There we go, this might work. So if I put the springs into the chassis, and then I can thread everything through. So this piece there is going to go into that hole there, and then you've got 4 holes there, 4 pegs which are going to go into those holes. But just as importantly, you've got to get these pegs into the springs. So once we get those in, it's a case of lining up about 58 different holes at once. Not quite 58. And it turns out that peg there that I talked about might have been irrelevant. Right, that's not going. So again, this has got one wheel, which makes it slightly awkward. Right, okay, so this peg that I thought was going into that hole, it's actually got to go into that hole there. There's a hole there. You can see my hand behind it. So that makes a lot more sense. So make sure these steel posts are going over the springs, and that's not going. Why is that not going? I think it's getting the first one in that's going to be the awkward sod. Can I say that on YouTube? Too late, I just did. Right, there we go. So that's in place. So obviously I can't, if I let go now it's going to spring up. But right, so that needs to be screwed down with 2 L screws. So now I've got to find these L screws, which I now can't find because I don't know where they've gone. And I've got plenty of J screws. Why have I got no L screws? I've run out of L screws. But I've got one. Aha. There we go. No, that's not it. Right, so I seem to have run out of L screws. I have a spare from a previous issue. Where they've given us too many. But I've not got enough. Why have I not got enough? Because there was one that I kept in the box. So guys, keep all of your screws. I cannot stress that enough right now. Right, so pushing this down again and getting my screw ready. Right, there we go. So first screw in, and I'm only putting that first one in just enough to bite, but I am not letting go of this chassis. That is only held in by a screw that's half screwed in. So I'll manoeuvre my finger round so I can access the next screw hole. Right, so this one I'm going to push in all the way. There we go, it's safe to let go now. So now I can finish screwing this second hole screw in. There we go. So our wheel is still moving. We have some kind of suspension. No, we don't. There we go. And we have steering. That steering is quite stiff, but it's you know me guys, I don't like having my wheels on the ground because the steering doesn't really want to know, does it? Right, so that's the front steering in place, and that is the stage complete. But there are some leftover J screws which I've learnt my lesson. Make sure they go in a pot and stay safe. Right guys, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove this rear axle. I'm going to put it back together with the springs in place, and I'm going to reapply that rear axle, and then I will show you the result. Okay guys, so my apologies for doing that. I have now placed the springs in, so like there's a lot less give but a lot more movement, so that's absolutely fine. So these wheels will move up and down. So I'm a little bit embarrassed about the spring situation, but one way a little bit of a get out clause for me is I've always maintained these are never instructional videos. These are build diaries. So this is my build diary, and this is why I leave the mistakes in. If I leave a mistake, then it's part of my build, isn't it? So I'm quite pleased with the way this is coming along. This has turned out to be an absolutely massive 2 issues. I will be honest with you, if I'd known it was going to take this long, I would have split it into 2 videos, but that's the way it is. I've done it now. So this is and I've just noticed I forgot to change the title again for the video. So we're not doing 6, 7 and 8, we're not doing 9 and 10 or 11, we're actually doing 12 and 12B. So I do apologise guys, I might just remove that title altogether. I think that'll be easier, it just saves me updating. So we've got these bits that I have decided not to glue on, and I think that's fine. Let's have a look. No, I thought I had some cab pieces. I've just got some cab roof. So I think the cab roof is coming in soon anyway, so we'll start building on that. But I'm leaving that now. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next video, where I believe I plan on doing 13 and 14, and then that will take us to within 2 issues of the end of the pack. By which time probably 2 more packs would have arrived. So take care, guys. I'll see you next week.